Hey there, and welcome to Connect the Dots Learning Center podcast. I'm Stephanie Wagers, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're a seasoned therapist, clinic owner, or just starting out, this podcast is your go to spot for insights, tips, and stories that'll help you connect the dots in your practice. Today, I'm joined by two inspiring leaders in early childhood development, Dr. Amy Tucci-Ketchum and Dr. Crystal Luce. Dr. Ketchum is a pediatric occupational therapist, author, and founder of the STEM Starts Now program, helping families prepare children for kindergarten success. Dr. Luce is an educator, researcher, and founder of Plant the Seed of Learning, a nonprofit dedicated to engaging families in their child's earliest years. Together, they co-authored The Early Childhood Promise, a book-tackling play, screen time, and provider well-being. Amy, Crystal, welcome. So today we're talking with Amy Ketchum and Crystal Luce, who both co-authored together the book Early Childhood Promise. But for listeners who may not know you two, can you kind of share a bit about your background and what led you guys to write Early Childhood Promise?
So I'll start. So thank you so much for having us, Stephanie. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Amy Ketchum. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I've been practicing for, oh my gosh, about 27 years, primarily in early intervention, NICU, school-based. I had my own private practice for a little while, focusing on 0 to 5. And what I keep finding over and over and over is that the parents are really the missing link. So often we provide a lot of continuing ed for therapists and teachers, and there's so many trainings and data and resources that are available, but parents are often really kind of left in the lurch as far as the data that comes out in the new education. So what Crystal and I tried to do was take the data that we know and put it into terms that it would support parents and help parents. So it's really a guide for parents, anyone working in early childhood, and also policymakers on what do babies need and just how early are they learning about their world, learning language, learning to play, and how can we best support that and foster that. So it's extremely data-based, and the idea is to take that rich evidence that's out there and put it in ways that parents can take that and implement it daily with their children.
Thank you so much for having us. I am Crystal Luce, and I am a former educator in the K-12 world. I began my career in kindergarten. So I saw firsthand the amazing things that parenting do for kids. Parenting skill sets really assist kids before they enter the K-12 world. I was an elementary teacher after that in a variety of grades, a reading specialist, a literacy coach. So I was able to get into classrooms K-12 and then an administrator. And I am currently at Westchester University as an associate professor in the early and middle grades department. I also teach leadership courses and courses in literacy.
So tell me, both of your diverse backgrounds, how did those, and I know Amy, you worked in like the NICU and you've had your own clinic and you've been a professor, and then Crystal with your diverse background, just, with kids K through 12, how did those perspectives kind of um, shape you in the way to write this book?
I think we complement each other beautifully because I come from the healthcare model, Crystal comes from the education model, and we both have early childhood businesses, nonprofits, missions, and we really complement each other nicely because we have the backgrounds that kind of fill each other, can kind of work together in a beautiful way. We both have done a lot of work directly with families, with children, whether they're typically developing or if they have special needs. We both kind of had a lot of experience in those areas. And there's such an overlap between early intervention and just kindergarten readiness, like really all children can benefit from that education, that knowledge that we try to give to families.
Tell me a little bit more about the book. What are you writing about? What are the topics?
So our book, The Early Childhood Promise, is broken up into 6 chapters, and we cover child development, just what does basic child development look like, and what are sort of the critical developmental periods. We talk about early intervention, just how to go about it. If a parent questions maybe that their child could use early intervention, whether it's speech therapy, OT, PT, how they start that process. We have a chapter on developmental delay, what that might look like, and when it's time to contact the child's healthcare provider. There's a chapter on screen time and the importance of alternatives to screen time. We have a whole chapter on play. We have a chapter on childcare and what that looks like in America and why it is so expensive and what parents can do and how they can be proactive in that. And we have a chapter on kindergarten readiness. So we really delve into what does that look like starting at birth.
Wow, you kind of covered it all. And you came at it from an OT and educator perspective, which for parents is amazing. How do parents get a hold of this book? I mean, I know they can purchase it, but what are you guys doing to get it out there in front of parents?
So it is on Amazon. We also have a website, theearlychildhoodpromise.com. We are doing as many things like this as we can, like doing podcasts, presentations, keynotes, speaking engagements. We're so excited. We're going to be taking it global this fall. Crystal and I will be presenting at the Bright Start conference in London, which will be simulcast from London and Abu Dhabi. So you could either go in person or you can join virtually. Looks like it's going to be a really amazing conference. So we're really excited to be going to that to talk about our book.
I mean, it sounds like this book is something that almost should be like, here you go when someone's pregnant or has just delivered, right?
Oh, we would love that.
Yes.
We would
Get
say
a grant for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be amazing. You can just work on that in your spare time. I know both of you aren't busy at all.
I really hope so. I know when I first started my career, it was not parent focused, but as I started teaching, a lot of my friends would come to me for advice about how to work with their children. And I really think a lot of us take for granted what parents don't realize they should be doing to no fault of their own. I mean, really, when we're parents, we're in our survival mode. It is one of the most trying times of our lives when we're parenting the 0 to 5 age. It's really hard. So, yes, we hope our book grounds parents and really makes them feel comfortable in what they're doing in their homes, but then also support them. A lot of parents like research and they want to read research books. I know I did. My family used to make fun of me because I would always be reading a book about how to parent better, and I just value that. So as we were writing this, we were looking at it from a parent lens, but as Amy said, also educator and also medical side of things.
Well, tell me what was it like to co-author the book together?
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I wrote a book by myself, and it was not nearly as much fun as doing with Amy because you have two minds. And so we're, dividing the chapters, but you can hear our voices throughout the book because we were always discussing, what do you think about this? What should we add here?
Yeah.
So it's the best.
It's so fun to work with a teammate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the power of play. I love play. I promote it so much in my own program, but can you kind of describe, I know in your book you talk about why play is so essential and powerful. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Well, when I think about it from the education lens, and maybe then Amy can add her 2 cents from the medical field, but there is a lack of play. When you look at what's happening in early learning facilities, and of course in kindergarten classrooms, there was a point in time where we were removing the kitchen play areas from the kindergarten classrooms because they were deemed not valuable in the learning process. And I went through that. I was in the education system then. Thankfully, today, the pendulum is swinging and play-based learning is coming back into kindergarten classrooms. We know from research and just by looking at children while they're playing how beneficial it is. There's numerous studies on the benefits of play and what happens and what children learn through play, all the problem solving that takes place, all the social learning and communication skills. When we took play away and you tracked kindergarten, and I've talked to a lot of administrators about this who are currently infusing play-based learning in their kindergarten classrooms,
Mhm.
the discipline referrals go down because children learn how to communicate, how to interact, and how to problem solve through play. And
Mhm.
I saw this with my own children. I had four children, and at one point, I had four kids under the age of 5. So
Wow.
I was always infusing play into everything I did because we lived play because I had no other choice.
Right.
I saw that they were able to figure things out independently and amongst each other. It's just so beneficial.
Mhm.
I wish there was more risky play. And I think
Mhm.
myself as a parent, I was definitely a helicopter mom. I would, try and deter my kids from doing certain things because I worried about their safety. But
Mhm.
again, there's more research today about the importance of risky type play. And this is nothing meaning they're going to get hurt.
Okay.
Let them climb up on a tree to those lower branches. Let them climb up on a seesaw and realize that it goes down and
Mhm.
up, those types of things.
Mhm.
Let them play on those merry-go-rounds and figure out what happens when we go too fast.
Right.
It's okay. It helps them understand the problem solving approaches.
That makes so much sense.
I mean, as you both know, and as all your listeners know, occupational therapists see that play is a child's occupation. So it's so important that we put so much emphasis on the importance of that when it comes to parents and teachers really understanding that children need that to learn and to grow and to learn vocabulary and language and how to interact with others. And oftentimes we would see when I worked in the school system, when a child had a behavioral issue, the first thing that got removed was their recess. And that's what we were always as therapists advocating for. Allow them playtime. Because that's what they need so they can come back into class and sit and be attentive. They need that time to let off steam. And, so many playgrounds, I'm glad Crystal brought up risky play because it's such an important part of play and learning and growth and development, because when children don't have the opportunity to engage in that risky play, they don't learn to take risks, they don't learn problem solving, they don't learn how to work together, they don't learn any resilience because there's nothing they need to overcome. And I mean, I remember my two daughters have graduated from college
Yeah.
already, but they, when they were younger, our favorite playground was the one that had one of those spinny toys
Yeah.
that took every child in the playground to grab and run around it to get it going as fast as they wanted. So you had that beautiful collaboration. They would take turns jumping onto it, and maybe someone would fly off, but they were
Yeah.
okay. They landed in
Yeah.
fast. And they were curious to learn, how does it work? I can remember my daughter crawling underneath to learn, like, how does this thing spin? And the muscles required to spin it, and the gross motor skills and the fine motor to hold on, like there was just so many benefits to that thing, and you can't find them anymore. They've been removed from every park because of
Yeah.
liability. You can't even find swings in a lot of parks anymore. There's a lot of playgrounds now that are beautiful wooden structures that they can climb up in a clubhouse and maybe play tic-tac-toe on a spinning wall, but
Mhm.
it's not the risky play that we used to
Yeah.
see in play areas. And it's just so important.
It is. I've noticed personally in just my own clinical practice, 20 years ago, kids would come into the clinic and, go crazy. Love, you knew what to do on the swing, bolster, they could do all this elaborate stuff and were excited. Now the kids that we see come in and just kind of like look at it like, what is this? Where's my tablet? Where's my phone? They don't have that ideation of what they can physically do with this equipment. And I think that could be a result of taking this stuff away and not allowing kids to have risky play.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So, what can we do as OTs, early educators that work in pediatrics? What can we do to help promote this more purposeful, risky play that is going to lead to better development?
I think it's really advocating
Okay.
for play in all locations. usually the pre-K centers and even lower, doing a wonderful job infusing play everywhere. It's when you get into the K to 12 realm, and I'll just say early childhood, meaning K to 3, where, they're trying to address mandates from the states
Right.
that impose them. And sometimes those mandates interfere with what teachers would like to do. There isn't a teacher out there that doesn't recognize the need for play and the importance of play, because play inspires creativity. And we really need more creativity in thought processes, especially as you're looking at all the jobs of today. You need to be creative. You need to be able to think on your feet. And by infusing play early on, we're teaching this. So really, I think teachers need to be advocating to their administrators and pulling them into their classrooms and showing them what play-based learning is. I've seen some great administrators who are currently infusing play in kindergartens, and they're sharing it with other administrators, and they're having site visits. And this is really inspiring this new trend where we're seeing more kindergartens become infused with purposeful play.
I would agree with everything Crystal said. I think awareness is huge. Like making parents understand that play isn't just the kids having fun, wasting time while you're making dinner or whatever. It's a really important part of childhood. It's really how they learn so many important skills, physical skills, social emotional skills, collaborative play, work, playing with other children, and also all those soft skills we want children to have when they come into kindergarten, right? The ability to wait their turn, the ability to sit still, the ability to, like Crystal said, be creative and eventually innovative. And there's just so many skills embedded in that.
Do you go into the power of the parent playing with the child in your book?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one thing that we in our clinic work really hard on, is kind of teaching parents how to play again, because I feel like in today's society, we're so busy.
for sure. So I think there's a real need to educate that, and also that it starts at birth. Like
Yeah.
people think, oh, I won't start playing with my baby till they're 3 or 4, till they're learning.
Right.
But being playful with babies starts right at birth. They're learning how their world works. They're showing that they're interested and wonder from the day they're born. So, we can foster that curiosity and that sense of wonder through scaffolded play from the time they're little babies, just by attending to, like, what are they looking at, what interests them, and how can we bring that to them or bring them closer to it, or allow them to interact with whatever it is that interests them. That right there is play. That is
Right.
meeting their curiosity, and that it begins immediately. And I have books at every bedside in the NICU. I have board books, and parents often say, well, I'm supposed to read to my baby? Why? Like they don't understand so often that before a child can talk back to you, we need to talk to them, read to them, sing to them, because they're learning the foundation for their own vocabulary and language long before they're able to actually articulate words. I think, we still need so much education in that area.
Let's move into a really heated topic, or can be, screen time. And I know that you address this in your book. So I would kind of love to hear how you address it in the book to parents, and what can we say as peds providers to a parent who, and I understand, but who overutilizes screen time.
Yeah, this is an amazing topic right now, and so much is coming out about it. I'm so thankful because I think it's being brought to everyone's attention, the importance of doing less screen time, not only us as parents on our phones in front of our children, but also handing a device to our kids because it's the easiest thing to do. So in our book, we give a lot of, we provide research, and then we give suggestions as alternatives to screen time. So instead of handing the screen, it's okay to sing with your baby and all those types of things. So we do talk a lot about that. We do understand that parents do need screens sometimes. But if you look at the research, you're not really supposed to give baby screens until they're 2. And so we do present research. There's a study that was done in Japan recently, and they do all this measuring of what's happening in the brain using an EEG.
Okay.
And they really look at the electrical activity in the brain. And when we're putting babies on screens, they found that every hour increase in average screen time, it later led to more difficulties in attention with children. So they were able to measure this, and also executive functioning was impacted. So we see a lot of this happening, like great studies are happening. In other nations and our nation as well, where they're measuring what's happening in our brains. And
Yeah.
are finding many detrimental things that happen as a result of too much screen time.
Right.
And so I would just, and in our book, we caution parents. So instead of, I know babies learn to mimic while looking at the screen, but what's not happening is that serve and return conversation, the computer can't talk back. So
Right.
even though they're learning patty cake, they're learning to mimic what they're learning on a screen. The missing part is that serve and return conversation piece, which is so essential.
What I like to recommend to parents sometimes when I get pushback that, I need screen time so I can get things done. Like I understand that. I totally understand that. And I think what the message we're trying to send is there's there's quality, you can have more quality screen time versus like there are shows that have been found to be higher quality for children versus shows that are more detrimental to brain activity. So to be aware of that there is a difference in screen time, there is more educational screen time, and also for parents to really realize before the age of 2, children might be engaged by screen time, but that does not mean that they're learning from it. They're
That's a
gonna
good point.
It's interesting. They're going to attend to it, but studies show they are not learning before the age of 2.
Right.
So I think that's really important. And what I try to recommend to parents is not to beat themselves up. If you're going to put your child in front of an educational program for 20 minutes or whatever while you make dinner, great. But then as often as you can, try to co-view with the child so you see what they're watching and you can ask them questions about it. You can pause and say, what do you think is going to happen next? Like you definitely bring some engagement to the screen time. The other thing I like to recommend is be very cognizant of how much screen time your child has per day, and that counts everything. That includes leapfrog and iPads and when you hand over your phone and actual TV viewing and all of that. And try to take that time and then double it with face-to-face engagement with your child.
What is that time frame that kids should be under?
So it's from 2 and under, it should be no screen time at all. Crystal, do you remember the actual time that's recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics?
The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that babies not watch any videos or screens until 18 months of age.
Okay.
And older babies limit exposure to 1 hour a day with an adult.
There's your key, right? With an adult. So you're getting that interaction back and forth.
But basically, I think if we can instill in parents the importance of, for every half hour of screen time, try to have an hour of back and forth conversation, playtime, where they're getting a parent's full attention.
So where would a family go to find the more educational kind of forms of screen time versus like what they should avoid? Because there's so much out there.
There is. Well, I really like Leapfrog products. They have an interactive quality about them, and they are definitely educational. They're more for a little bit older children. So some of the like TV shows, Baby Einstein has some really cute interactive, kind of slow moving shows. Bluey, a lot of parents really love Bluey because it's very slow. It's not overstimulating for the child, and it's very repetitive, which is the way children learn. So that has been ranked pretty high when it comes to quality screen time.
I think the important thing, no matter what it is, you have to think about what you're doing with it. So mindlessly just passively sitting in front of something is not really helpful when you're thinking about screens. Being able to interact and engage with a show is more productive, or with a screen. So if there's some type of interaction required, and communication is okay. So if you're using a video chat tool, that is perfectly fine, because that's how people stay in touch. And you're able to do that serve and return conversation talking that we were talking about earlier. Or if you're doing something with content creation. So if you're creating something through the screen, that's okay. So I think there is good content. Like Sesame Street always has good things on. And there's so much research about Sesame Street and the benefits of what Mr. Rogers is famously talked about because of the good that was done through Mr. Rogers. So
Right.
And you have that slow cadence to that show, and it's repetitive.
Any recommendations for families when their child just has such a hard time getting off a screen?
I would suggest set the limit before you even give the screen. So here you have the screen. You can be on it for 10 minutes and show them the clock when the big gets to this number, that type of thing, or, just have a countdown. All right, you have 5 more minutes, or however you count down. But you can set devices to automatically shut off when you want it to. So that's another.
I would recommend that as well, being very clear about the expectations, but I would add to that too, let the child know what's going to happen next, so that it's not just screen time's over and then we're all sad. It's as soon as you're done watching Bluey, then we're going to go have a snack. Or when you're done watching Bluey, we're going to go outside and play. Or, what's going to happen next? So move on, so that there doesn't become that that debate over giving it up, giving the screen back.
Right.
An excellent point.
Yes.
Because children thrive on routine. So when you are able to tell them what comes next, it prevents those tantrums.
I don't remember where I heard it, but more for older kids who are really into gaming and who would just, lose it when they had to get off a game. And it was having a conversation with the child of what's happening, during that time in the game. And what came out was, well, I almost got to the next level, but when I stopped, I lost all my progress. So kind of having a conversation before, like, you get 10 minutes, are you going to be able to do what you need to do? Maybe we choose something different, is also like a piece for those older kids. But I hadn't thought about that before. Like, I'd be frustrated too if I was like almost there and then all my work went away.
Yes, I was from the Atari days, so I completely understand like how much time you need to like conquer the game.
Let's talk a little bit about your STEM Starts Now program. Can you kind of tell me how that works to support parents and children together?
Yes, so STEM Starts Now is a digital newsletter that parents can go on the website, stemstartsnow.com, and sign up to receive e-newsletter either weekly or monthly, depending on their child's age. So they sign up with their baby's birth date, and then that generates a newsletter that comes to their email that is specific to their child. So for example, it'll say your baby is now 6 months. They're probably starting to roll back to front. It goes through. So we talk about physical development, cognitive development, social development, the early milestones, how to best support the parent throughout. And then it goes from 0 to 5. And around age 2.5, it switches to much more of a kindergarten readiness focus. So every newsletter would say, by kindergarten, your child will be expected to have these skills. This is what these skills look like at age 2.5, at age 3, and so forth. So for example, when a child starts kindergarten, they're typically able to hold a crayon and write their name. What does that look like at age 2? They're holding a crayon and writing, drawing large shapes. They're starting to form, straight lines and curved lines and things like that. So, and then it offers some suggestions and activities to help build those kindergarten readiness skills. There's a big emphasis on play, but anyone can join. It's free. There's a lot of content on the site. I have about 20 contributing authors at this point. So there's a lot of content on there. It breaks down all the milestones, what to expect at each age. We have special interest sections for autism, premature babies, maternal mental health, nutrition. There's just a ton of content. It's been growing
Yeah.
over years.
All right, let's move into the next kind of, I would say, hot topic right now. If you're in any Facebook group related to therapy, they're talking about provider burnout. And I know, Amy, you did a workbook for
Yeah.
provider burnout. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
So my workbook's called See Occupational Therapist Run, and it's about avoiding burnout in the field of
Mhm.
occupational therapy. It's basically looking at if we were a therapist, how would we write a treatment plan for ourselves?
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Looking at it's definitely set up as a workbook, and it's looking at so each chapter is a different area that OTs tend to experience burnout. I did a huge poll of what OTs are feeling most often. And we talk about the emotional toll. We talk about sort of that empathy fatigue. We talk about the physical toll on your body, especially working in pediatrics. You're always on the floor. Um,
Yeah.
so many itinerant therapists are carrying 100 things going up and down steps in these schools. We're working in hallways and closets. We talk about the pressures for continuing education. When is it time to go back to school? So it really encourages you to think about each of these areas, prioritize what's important, write some goals for yourself, like writing a treatment plan, like to write some measurable goals, and think about how you're going to meet those goals so that you protect yourself so that you can protect your future patients.
Mhm.
Because we know if there's nothing left in our cup, we can't pour from it. So it's really focused on supporting therapists and definitely hoping to ensure that therapists don't feel alone, that they feel validated in all of their feelings of the challenges. I just left 5.5 years of teaching at Cedar Crest College um in the doctorate program. So I was the fieldwork coordinator. So placed the students in fieldwork, went out and supervised them in fieldwork, and some of them were telling me I'm already feeling burnt out.
Yeah.
So in to working in the field, it's a lot. It can be
Yeah.
really hard and exhausting, and we need to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of our patients.
Yeah. So that's kind of my next question. You have both experience in academia and kind of running your own clinic. What is academia doing to prep these students? Because I hire new grads a lot, and 6 months in, they're like, I want to cut my hours back.
Yes. Well, we talk a lot about self-care. We
Yeah.
really do. And so often, I've done keynotes on this, and so often people will say, I don't have time for self-care. That's their knee-jerk reaction. And I always start by saying, I have 3 jobs. I have my own business, I work in a NICU, I teach, and my self-care is so simple. I go into the NICU and I used to find that I would just feel depleted after an hour in the NICU. We keep it very warm in there, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I start to feel really hot and tired. And I found that if I take 1 minute at the beginning of my shift and fill up my water bottle and leave it right outside the NICU. And then I very intentionally, between every single baby, step out of the NICU and take some sips of ice water and come back in between each baby, that I don't get dehydrated. I don't feel as exhausted. It's the tiniest thing for my self-care, but it has made a world of difference in my
Mhm.
ability to get through a long shift in the NICU. It's just simply staying hydrated. So I try to tell my students and the therapists I've worked with, find what that little thing is that you can do for yourself every day that can become part of your habit. Also, studies show that when someone has a trusted person in their workplace that they can rely on to talk about when they're feeling overwhelmed or to vent to
Right.
or that really understands what they're going through, there's much lesser rates of burnout. So find that person. I make my students have an accountability partner when they go out to their field work. So this is a person they're supposed to check in with on a daily basis of just, hey, how was your day? Like knowing you have someone else who knows exactly what your role is and what you're going through, kind of corner saying, you're doing a great job, really makes a huge difference. So find that person in where you work. If that person simply does not exist, then maybe you need to look at, is this the best place for me if you're feeling too alone? Because the other thing, new therapists often go into the field in a position where they're very alone, and it's, I think, really important that they have some mentorship. But they maybe always want to work in a school, so they go right into a school setting where they're itinerant and hardly see other therapists, and there's higher rates of burnout when they're very alone. So I recommend that they start their career in a clinic or a rehab or a hospital where they're going to have mentorship and support versus being out there by themselves. And I think translates to teachers and a lot of other fields too, is just having someone you can trust that can support you there.
I will say in academia, we are adding self-care into our coursework.
Good.
Preparing teachers. And a colleague of mine, her name's Dr. Lisa Lucas, I'll put a shout out to her. She is very big into self-care, and she's in my department that I work in, and she just wrote a book called Practicing Presence. And in this book, she goes over all kinds of self-care strategies and things to do so that you don't burn out. In the field of education, 50% of teachers resign before the 5-year mark because they don't understand how to take care of themselves. And the classroom dynamics are changing. Everything's changing. It's more difficult in some of our service world, service industry. I think, occupational therapists deal with this as well.
What can employers do in lieu of obviously providing mentorship, but what else can they offer their employees to help decrease burnout?
I think leadership is really important. You recently had Nicole Quinn on your podcast. I love the talk about building confidence in your OT identity. And I think cultivating a place of psychological safety for everybody where they feel comfortable being heard, speaking up, voicing their concerns, and knowing that they're going to be supported and not penalized for doing that is critical. Because if in the workplace you feel like you can't ask for what you need, or talk about what's your biggest challenges are, their staff's going to burn out, and then they're going to have to fill those positions and start all over again. So really, fostering that support.
Yes, I think you have to create that culture of trust. And so whoever the leaders are, they need to form relationships with those that they're trying to nurture. And if that trust is not built, that's when you see progress deteriorate.
My daughter's a first-year kindergarten teacher, and oh my gosh, it was so fun watching her teach her first year, but she has incredible mentorship, and she had some very challenging children, but that mentorship is really what got her through.
So I just want your guys' opinion about the shifts in occupational therapy and the current hiring challenges. And I can speak from an employer that it's very difficult to hire. But what do you believe needs to change in our field to better support and retain pediatric therapists? This kind of goes back to the burnout piece a little bit, but are we not vetting the practitioners that are applying to school?
We're in an interesting place right now. I can tell you in academia, we talk about this every single day. There are a lot of OT programs, too many in some states. They're getting a little bit diluted. It's getting a little bit challenging for OT programs to fill the seats in some cases. However, there is still a need for OTs in the field. So basically, we need more therapists in the pipeline. We need to be promoting our profession at an earlier state. We need to be going into high schools and talking about what is OT and how to get into an OT program. We really need to be, I think, doing a better job of promoting the profession as a whole, because data is still showing us that it's going to continue to grow. I think last I heard is 26 or some percent expected to grow in the next 10 years. And if we're already challenged with filling seats in OT programs, that's going to be hard to fill those positions. So I would say we need to do a better job advocating and really getting our seats filled in the programs, and do a really good job of preparing these students for the real world of occupational therapy,
Yes.
sort of from the classroom to the clinic, getting them as much clinical time as we possibly can, I think is really important, and giving them experiences working. Because of COVID, I've had a lot of students that their clinical work was their first essential job. They weren't able to
Yeah.
work in high school or college. So I was really teaching some soft skills like eye contact and how to give a good handshake and how to write a professional email, because these aren't skills that they had any practice with, often because of COVID. They just didn't. They were learning virtually through high school or college and just weren't getting that experience. So we had to be kind of intentional about teaching those skills too to a lot of our students, coming new into the OT field.
I think it's multifaceted, but insurance reimbursement is going down.
Yeah.
Student loans are going up.
Yeah.
And cost of living is going up. So people are coming out with this expectation to make this much money, and it's just not there. And then it's just not there. So then you have to increase caseloads and demands. And it's just, as a practice owner, sometimes we just feel like we're chasing our tail of like, how can we make this a good work environment, but still remain profitable so we can continue to serve the community.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really love about the program at Cedar Crest College is every professor has release time. So we all work in the clinic still 1 day a week.
Okay.
What we're teaching is what we did just yesterday. So we
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, we have our hand in the clinic as well. So we know the trends. We can tell them exactly what's going on if we were yesterday in our scrubs, doing the job. So we're not far removed from that. So we feel like, our students are going out very well equipped for what is the real world gonna show them. And I think it's really important for OT programs to do that. I know a lot of them say they offer release time, but then their professors are expected to go get that themselves on the weekends. And that's
Oh.
not realistic. That's not realistic. I wish more OT programs would do that, because that trickles down to the students. It gives them a
Yeah.
much more realistic education.
I would agree. Anything you can do to promote field-based learning, that's definitely practical. Situated learning theory is a theory that I love. And using that theory means that you're embedding the learning in the situation where
Yeah.
the student is going to eventually work or
Right.
involved in.
Right. Yeah.
Practical. Mhm.
Well, thank you guys for that. So what's next for you both?
Well, we're working on a book, but we
Yeah.
are in the draft stages. So
Okay.
the book will be focused on purposeful play in the classroom setting. Of course, there'll be research, there'll be theory, but this book will be more practical.
Okay.
So that a teacher can use it immediately in their classroom setting, because we know teachers are so busy. They don't have a lot of time to plan out thematic lessons. So we're hoping for it to be theme-based and engaging as well.
And we also have a conference coming up. Crystal and I are hosting our second annual conference in Lancaster on STEM and play, early STEM leading to play. So that will be coming up October 25th. So we still have some open registration if anyone's interested in that and you're in the Lancaster, Pennsylvania area. We have that coming up in the fall.
Great. When are you thinking your book might release? I know you're just in the early stages, but do you guys have like a time frame in mind?
What would you say? Probably like early 26, hopefully.
Possibly, yes.
To wrap up, if listeners could take away one thing from this podcast today, what do you hope that they got out of it?
I hope they have a better understanding of the importance of play in everything that we do. Even as adults, we need play. So just infusing play into everything that you're doing is a wonderful way to stay healthy and to have a positive mindset, both for adults and children. Because even as adults that are playing with children, it's so inspiring and so fun. I know when I do sessions with parents, I'm down on the floor playing with the kids, and I feel so good after I leave the sessions.
Love that. Perfect answer. Just the importance of play. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And then where can people find the book and find STEM Starts Now?
So STEM Starts Now is its own website. It's just stemstartsnow.com. And our book is for sale on Amazon. It's called The Early Childhood Promise. That's what it looks like. And it's like I said, it's on Amazon. And we also have a website that is called earlychildhoodpromise.com.
I will link all of that in the show notes. It was so fun talking with you ladies. I appreciate it and everything you're doing for the pediatric population and those of us that work in it. It's fantastic.
Thank you. And thanks for all the amazing work you're doing as well, Stephanie.
Yeah, you're welcome.